Hey guys, Sharpend here. In this video we're going to recreate the arpeggio synth from the 1975 song I'm in Love With You. Here's the original. And here's what we'll be creating today. Okay, so the first thing I did to figure out the sound was search for a spot when you can hear it pretty clearly, like here. And then I stretched the song to be slower, 2 times slower, using the stretch function, and you just multiply it by 200%, and you get this thing. And when it is slower, you can kind of hear the notes a bit better, so that helped me transcribe the notes here. It's a very simple arpeggio, nothing too extreme, and it just repeats itself every half a bar. And then I went to MIDI and sped it back up to be 2 times faster, so you get this arpeggio repeating every quarter of a bar. So you get something like this. And then sound design wise, when you listen to it, it kind of sounds like a real instrument, but it also reminds me of like FM, old sounding e-pianos. So that's what I was trying to recreate here. So let me show you how I did it. I picked a sine wave and gave it some unison, 4 voices with a low amount of detuning. It sounds like this. Very basic. As for its envelope, you have some very short decay, no sustain, and a longer release than the decay. So when it plays the arpeggio, you get something like this. The notes start to overlap, like if the release was shorter, it would sound a lot drier, and in the song it sounds very wet and like all over the place, very sustained, so that's why the release is fairly high. And then to create that very old e-piano FM sound thing, I used FM from B, and I used a triangle wave, and I just made a very short envelope with 0 sustain and a very fast decay. That basically modulates it upwards, so you get a very clicky sound. And basically you just need to mess until you find like the right setting for you. For me it was 1 octave above, like 0 octaves it would sound like this. And the higher you go, you get that glacier sort of sound from it. And then I just used a low pass filter with a very high cutoff, just to cut off a bit of the annoying highs, to make it sound a bit less synthy and a bit more organic, like an e-piano. It's really up to you. And then I've used a ping pong delay at 1/8 of a note. It has a very high feedback at 70%, and the mix is almost 50% wet, so you get again a very washed up sound compared to. And then there's also some reverb. So I used a reverb that has quite a lot of size, and the high cut is all the way off so that it affects all of the high frequencies and also some of the low frequencies. There is a bit of a low cut, and no pre-delay at all. So you get something like this. It makes it a bit more atmospheric. It sort of sounds like a shimmer reverb, especially when you turn the mix up. And then let's compare it to the original. So here's the original. And of course, in the original, it's mixed way in the back. So of course it would sound a lot lower in volume and everything. But another trick that I have to make it sound a bit more in the back and a bit more organic is to use a very short reverb that doesn't really sound too much like a reverb, more like a room impulse response, like this setting here. It barely sounds like a long sprawling reverb. It's very short, it just adds a bit of room to the sound, and at about 50% wet you get a more organic and a more in the back sort of sound. Let's compare it. So it just smudges it up a bit to make it a bit more in the back, and together I think they sound pretty close to each other. And that's pretty much it for this sound. If you want, you can layer it with like other synths, like I try to do here. But it's not necessary. I think that the sort of FM Pluck sound e-piano is more than enough to recreate this sound. It's just about creating a very fast arpeggio and you're good to go. That's it. For more content, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well, and check out my playlists on the channel for other tutorials, track breakdowns, and my music as well.